You know, adaptations are just kind of a given in any entertainment industry. Books are made into movies, movies into games, and games into books. It's just the circle of life. But the author of The Witcher really doesn't want anything to do with that circle.
In a pretty incredible interview that's actually a couple of weeks old now, but for some reason only started doing rounds a few days ago, The Witcher author Andrzej Sapkowski came down pretty hard on The Witcher games and video games in general. Speaking to the website Waypoint, Sapkowski said, "I made the games popular. The belief widely spread by CD Projekt Red that the games made me popular outside of Poland is completely false. All of my translations in the West, including the English one, were published before the first game."
Okay, so just for a second, ignoring everything he just said, some of which is absolutely outrageous, we'll get to that in a second, there is one very interesting thing about the translations. Despite the interview that he's done dating back to April the 6th, all the video game websites only picked it up on Wednesday after the website Stevivor picked it up. In Stevivor's article, the site wrongly claims that Sapkowski is wrong when he says his translation was published before the first game and that the translations only came out after the game. The claim is incorrect, Stevivor boldly says. No, Stevivor, you are incorrect, and now so is every other gaming website that picked up your story just hours after you did, blindly copy and pasting what you've written onto their own websites without doing a shred of research themselves. The translation did come out first in June 2007, a good 3 or 4 months before the game did in October 2007, not October 2006. Anyway, back to the video.
Sapkowski believes the video game series has somehow actually lost him as many book sales as it's gained. He freely admits that he only agreed to the video game deal for money and told CD Projekt Red the game's story was their problem. A problem they've solved pretty fucking wonderfully, if you ask us. The author basically has no regard for video games as an art form at all, saying, "Where's the room for depth or sophisticated language with which games could elevate culture? There's none."
Sapkowski said that the animosity he has toward the game only started when the game began to spoil his market. "I wrote the first Witcher story 30 years ago," he said. "When I come to my author meetings, there's no one in the audience close to my age. I am 69. There's no one. Kids everywhere." Despite all this, he did also insist that he has nothing against the game itself, even calling it a high-level product. He said he has nothing against games or gamers in general, but pointed out he does not play games himself and never will. Alright, you dick. So let's jump off at that point about him complaining about kids showing up to his book readings. Like, oh no, I've got a whole new audience that understands my work and likes to read my books because of a video game. That is such a ridiculous attitude to have.
Then those same kids that he's complaining about that have read the books because of the games, he's then complaining, saying that the games don't do enough advertising for the books, concealing it, and they don't say The Witcher based on the book.
What do you want?
Yeah.
Do you want the kids to come and, read your books with you and come to your flipping author meetings, which I'm sure are thrilling?
Author meetings full of just other like-minded 69-year-old men. Sounds a little bit weird to me, but there we go, Andrzej.
I don't understand this. It's what you just mentioned there. He wants credit for his work, and yet he doesn't want kids coming into his author meetings. But then also he claims that the game is only popular because of his books. He's contradicting himself all over the place, isn't he? Also, I can't believe that he's so dismissive of the game's success in terms of how it would have influenced the sales of his book, which is a huge part of this, if you ask me. Obviously, the game being as big and successful as it is would have had a massive impact on his sales. Breaking into the West is a big thing to do, especially if your book needs to be translated from another language first. The fact that you've got a video game that is unbelievably popular and has a really hardcore fan base that then spills out into the wider gaming community is one of the most successful video games we've had in years. That is going to have a massive impact on book sales in the West, and he's in complete denial if he doesn't see that.
So, if by now you're thinking, whoa, Andrzej Sapkowski's an arrogant motherfucker, you're not alone. Those were the exact actual words of another video game source material author, Dmitry Glukhovsky, the guy who wrote the Metro series. Genuinely, responding to Andrzej Sapkowski's claims, his actual words were, "I think that he's totally wrong and that he's an arrogant motherfucker."
Also talking to Waypoint, the Metro author said, without the gaming franchise, the Witcher series would never get this crazy international readership that it has. He would remain a local Eastern European phenomenon without this, but he would never break into the West. The same goes for my Metro books. Now, the Metro author sounds spot on, and it's probably something to do with the fact that he's 37, or thereabouts, and he's kind of grown up playing video games. When 4A Games told him that they were making a video game out of Metro, he was dead excited. He was a big fan of things like Fallout and Stalker and things like that himself. So he was fully on board, and he was embracive of 4A, and he wanted to help. He wanted to contribute to the project. Completely unlike Mr. Sapkowski, who just didn't want anything to do with it.
When I was watching some early interviews of him about his stories, he feels that people dismissing his stories just because they're fantasy is really childish, because a story is a story. And in the exact same way, he's dismissing video games as a medium for telling a story because it's childish. So he's like saying, oh, people think that fantasy novels can't be for grown-ups. How silly of them. And then he's like going, but video games aren't for intellectuals.
However, what CD Projekt Red have done is an excellent high-level product. I mean, his contradictions, he's all over the place. It feels strange to talk about someone who's created this universe and this world that I'm such a big fan of, being such a dick about that universe as well.
Yeah.
And the people who are fans of it. Because I'm a fan of the video game, that makes me less relevant or less important in his eyes.
Yeah, it's an interesting discussion point as well, and a question for everybody watching. How important is the personality behind the art? Can you enjoy music or film or games if it's made by somebody who's actually a bit of a knobhead? Does it actually matter? I don't know.
Yeah, another Jake Kulkowski question that you can answer down below in the comments.
Is this a Saturday show?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
First up, commenting on the Battlefront 2 video, Sven Tempest says, to me, it sounds like DICE don't want to shaft us. EA, meanwhile, are already prepping the lube. Yeah, like EA's going to use lube.
Okay, so on our podcast expert video talking about the best video game weapons, Black Raven leaves the comment, Total Annihilation, the good old days.
Yeah, you know, Total Annihilation just doesn't get the credit it deserves. Like the unit physics, like firing shells that didn't like lock onto the enemy, they just floated across the map and they hit whatever they hit.
Shut up!
Commenting on our video game protagonists video, the Ubicator says, ugh, he's not very good. Could be a description of every Ubisoft iconic character that has ever been made. You know, Ubisoft has had some decent characters, but it's just, I mean, spot
like
on,
that guy from Far Cry, what's his name?
And, the guy from Watch Dogs.
That other guy, there's that guy. And there's the guy with the sword comes out of his
and
hands.
A hood.
Spider-Man with the hood on,
Commenting on the Japan Rising video, Daniel Clark Hughes knocks it out of the park with Western games seem to try to emulate films in their structure, but Japanese games feel like their own art form. That is so unbelievably on the money that I'm really annoyed that I didn't say that in the video, because that is exactly right. The game is so much more important. The gameplay, the action of what you're doing in the game is like the centerpiece for all these Japanese games, and that's just not the case for Western games. A first-person shooter is now a first-person shooter cinematic experience.
And finally, commenting on our Knights of the Old Republic video, Z says, BioWare, more like BioWary. I'll see myself out. Get the hell out of here.
If you want to read that Witcher interview in full with Sapkowski and the Metro author, there'll be a link down in the description. I really recommend that you read it because it's bloody incredible. Thank you very much for watching the video. There's some more content right here for if you want to watch some of that. There's a link to Patreon if you want to support the channel. Do remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. We'll see you next time.